Hello everyone, this is In-Game Art with another boxing of the offline product game review. This is Might and Magic Clash of Heroes, the Definitive Edition for the PlayStation 4, but being played and tested on my PlayStation 5. To jump right into it, this physical copy here comes with the update version 1.02 right on the disc, but sadly there was an update available. This update size was 500 megabytes big and will take you through version 1.03 since the time of this video. Now like always, I play all my games completely offline with an unregistered account, and I didn't experience any massive game-breaking bugs or issues, and as well I was still unlocking trophies with my unregistered account. Now before we go into it, I want to let you know that this physical copy of Might and Magic Clash of Heroes the Definitive Edition is from Limited Run Games, so getting a copy could become quite difficult down the road. So I just want to let you know that, and as well this Definitive Edition does include the DLC Villains Pack on the disc as well. If you don't know, Might and Magic Clash of Heroes was originally first a release for the Nintendo DS. This is basically a remake. I wouldn't really call it remaster because they rechanged some of the art design and some of the assets, and as well as retweak and rebalance some of the units and abilities and stuff like that. So this is just straight up a remake of the classic from the Nintendo DS. Now, I never played that version, so this was my first time ever playing Might and Magic Clash of Heroes. And overall, it was a very interesting experience. This was, again, my first time playing it, and the game is a heavily, inspired strategy, puzzle, Tetris-style game. Some might be a little annoyed because that is the entire experience is that, and it's a very limited and narrow experience because, again, this is a Nintendo DS game. But the overall feel and play of the game, I wouldn't necessarily say it was just, uninspired or anything like that, but it just felt very casual. But not to the point where it's so casual that it felt like you could turn your brain off. But every time I kept playing, I just felt like I was just invested in every battle. Even though I do admit near the end of the game, and I think even the developers started noticing that it started getting a little repetitive, and they kind of like sped it up a little bit, especially when you get to the Crystal Castle or something like that, the Desert Castle. You can tell they kind of sped up the gameplay level layout just to hurry up and finish up the game because they knew it was kind of getting a little repetitive. But as I said, the game falls around like a Tetris style game where you are doing a battle and you can command units to come down and you line them up like either horizontal or vertical, and if you do horizontal, it turns into a wall, like a defensive wall, and you do vertical, it turns into attack formation. And then you have champions and hero characters, which are more powerful units that you can summon, and you can acquire units to do a massive attack, and each one has their own like special unique abilities. As well as there are several other factions. You have the elves, the humans, the necromancers, the demons, as well as the wizards from the desert city. So there's quite a few factions, and as well you have your heroes. These heroes have their own special magical power, as well as artifacts that will affect the gameplay in some way. Like if you can have a special ring on the demon side, it will allow you to get an extra turn. The point of the game is to try to maximize the amount of moves in your single turn. And basically the setup is you can move around 3 units or summon a group of units. That counts as a turn. But if you can find ways to combine units without having to use up a move, you can get more turns. So it's all about utilization, about seeing your environment, seeing where the enemies land and everything, and then to be able to do the most combinations in one go. The only real problem some might feel like they could be cheated is that a lot of this is RNG. You really don't have no control of what the starting fall of units is, and when you request reinforcements, this is also random on what drops. I can see how some people may feel like the game is playing against them because like computer can call a couple units and it lands perfectly for them, and you can request reinforcements and it lands just completely useless formations. I can see how some people can get a little aggravated and feel like the game is playing unfair with that. I think there could have been some things they could have done to improve this, to limit that feeling of RNG. Like, instead of just randomly dropping the units when you call reinforcements, you can it pulls out 3 cards, and like these are 3 formations, and you get to pick one of those 3. That way you can maybe feel like you're at least selecting a formation drop. Now that formation drop could be random, but at least you can pick the variations. These are just ideas I think they could have done to be able to prove it, but again, this is the first game, and it's just pretty much a straight remake of the original, so I definitely would like to see a full sequel to this game. And on to story-wise, nothing really amazing. You're just playing a bunch of like kind of teenage characters, and your parents end up getting killed, and a weapon called the Demon Binder, where it gets stolen, and your mission is to prevent the enemy from getting this special dagger that allows them to control demons. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about it. Funny enough, it felt like a Saturday morning cartoon more or less than anything, because you have all these cartoony characters, and the plot felt very cartoony, like your typical cartoon thing you would see on the Saturday morning cartoon, and just these villains and the setup and everything like that. I mean, it's a little darker than your typical child-friendly, but that's why I said it's a Saturday morning cartoon, because that's where you usually see the cool stuff like Spider-Man or X-Men and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it fit in that bill pretty well. Other than that, as I said, the experience was rather good, but I did have some mist glitch, like there's some clouds in the environment, and they came across this top left corner, and they kind of like turned into a blocky mess. It's not like game affecting or anything like that, but anywhere and everywhere I went to that had some clouds or mist, and it came across that top left corner, it always looked distorted. So that was just a minor visual glitch bug, but nothing serious. Another interesting thing was that the game supports 2-player offline, which was really cool. You can play 2 players and just have some fun with playing like a normal, like competitiveness, which is really cool. But weirdly enough, the game does not support multi-controllers. So if you want to play 2 players, you have to share one controller, which is not a big deal. And I do appreciate that when games do that, so that way you're not required to have 2 controllers when it's a turn-based style game like this, something like Worms and stuff. But it just seems odd that there is no other choice. You have to play with one controller. The only thing I can think of is, since this was a Nintendo DS game, they never really implemented the 2-controller support. But again, that seems a very lazy excuse. This is just a full-up remake of the game, so you think you could have added that. But I do want to point out the 500 megabyte update did mention something about fixing some multiplayer problems. So maybe that update addresses that issue and includes multiple controller support. Not sure, but if you're like me, you don't do updates that's irrelevant to you. If you want to play 2 players, you have to both share one controller. Next up, another interesting thing throughout the campaign, you buy units, and I really felt this was a very useless mechanic, because it really didn't feel like it impacted the gameplay at all, because I usually just had max units all the time, every time, so I never really understood what was the point of having resources and buying units. It just felt like a very useless and not really thought out mechanic in the game. I just felt like it was more of a chore, because sometimes I had to do a long backtrack back to where I can buy units, because I'm like furthest end of the level, and then I had to run all the way back to buy new units. It just felt like a chore, and it felt very useless, the overall setup of the game. Next one, this one made me a little chuckle before. When I started the game, I didn't even realize Ubisoft is involved with this game. But when I saw that Ubisoft logo, it just threw me for a loop, because I've not played an Ubisoft game in such a long time that I have yet to... It blew my mind, because I was like, oh yeah, Ubisoft. I haven't played an Ubisoft game in such a long time. But moving on from that, another one is that there is these special units called, I think they're called hero units, and they take up 4 blocks. And for the life of me, I could never really found them very useful. I prefer the what do they call them? Champions. They took up 2 blocks, and they felt a little bit more strategical, but I understand the 4-block units are like really powerful, and if you can get lucky in their drop and their formation, they can be just basically game wiping if you're lucky. But it felt very luck based in terms of where they drop and how you can use them. While the other ones, the ones that take up 2 blocks, felt a little bit more strategic, and you could play around them. So I really felt like the 4-block units really felt useless, and I was a little disappointed on that. And next one is the last is unskippable credits. When you beat the game, you will have to sit through the entire credits, and some of it goes through one name at a time. So that took a while to get through the credits. That's just a minor complaint, but that was annoying. And that's about it throughout the experience of the game. I relatively enjoyed the game. It was a really chill experience for me. Not to the point where it was like one of those cozy games where you could just turn off your brain and have some good time, which I do enjoy those kinds of games at times. But this game just felt very addictive. Like, no matter what, I was ready for the next fight. I was ready to see the next formation and plan out my next attack. It was always just rewarding, and it did have some pretty good soundtrack to boot with the combat. I was relatively surprised with the game, and I'm definitely more than happy that I have a physical copy on my shelf of this game. And I'm very interested to see a sequel to it. I mean, it just has some minor little hiccups, like I said, the RNG battles maybe could use some little refinement, and as well as the making the 4 block units feel a little more useful. Because to me, it just felt just like a cumbersome to have to deal with them in my formation, unless I got lucky and they dropped with a ability to immediately get them going for their attack. For my personal opinion, if you love like Tetris or strategy kind of games, but that is the entire point of the game, is just playing that, is just building formation units, and that's it. It could be really up to you. I can see why some people maybe not be into it, and I can see some people feeling the game is a little repetitive because that's all you're doing all the time, every time, is just playing a Tetris style game. But for me, it satisfied a certain itch that I have no other game currently right now has satisfied, and I thought that was really cool. It's its own unique experience, and I'm always happy to have unique experiences on my shelf. So like always, thank you all so much for watching. I will try to leave links down in the description if you're interested to copy. For the most part, yeah, I do recommend the game. I had a good time with it. I definitely can see myself coming back to it because it was just fun, and I rather enjoyed that, and that's all I ever ask out of my game, is just to be fun and enjoyable and a very unique experience. So like always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next unboxing video. Bye bye.